Good afternoon and welcome back to the special edition of Parliament TV. Gamalam, Dinguthembi Nkosingoma.
And of course, we're coming to you live from Emperor's Palace in Gauteng, where the 19th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth African Region, also known as CSPOC, has kicked off this afternoon.
Of course, this is a significant gathering of parliamentary leadership on the continent, bringing together speakers, deputy speakers and presiding officers from across Africa to engage on the future of democratic governance, accountability and sustainable development.
Of course, all of this is held under the theme Proactive Parliament and Sustainable Development, an imperative for political stability in Africa. The conference provides a platform for delegates to exchange their ideas, share best practices and explore solutions to some of the continent's most pressing challenges.
And over the course of the conference, discussions will focus on strengthening public trust and governance, promoting innovative parliamentary leadership, harnessing the potential of Africa's youth, and leveraging technology to build more responsive and effective legislatures.
And of course, during this conference, delegates will also reflect on the importance of collaboration among Commonwealth legislatures in addressing shared priorities. And parliaments play an important role in safeguarding democracy, advancing development, and of course, ensuring accountability.
And earlier this week, at a media briefing, the Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, the Honorable Murakani Mosopie, and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Refilwe Mtsweni Tsipane, spoke to the media about hosting this conference and why it is happening at this venue.
For us, as a sub-national legislature, it is almost like it has never the NCOP because the letter is embedded in the Constitution, so we have to respect the Constitution. The other important thing for us is that this venue itself is very historic for South Africa. This is the venue where pre-1994 negotiations were held for the freedom that all of us enjoy today. So the combination of the two historic moments is very important for us as a province, and it's something that we will cherish and pass on to the generations to come.
Today, we mark an important milestone in the South Africa's parliamentary parliament. It is befitting indeed to gather here today as heads of continental parliaments and sub-legislatures at the Emperor's Palace. The Speaker has alluded to the history that has been witnessed by South Africans in this very same place that we are in today. This place gave birth to the new South Africa and the profound transition from the from a repressive apartheid system to a thriving constitutional democracy. South Africa has been since the adoption of our constitution 30 years ago. Now, the International Convention Center, that's where CODESA negotiation took place and ushered in the new South Africa we are enjoying today.
Welcome back. You're still watching the live broadcast of Parliament TV. Of course, we're coming to you live from Emperor's Palace in Gauteng. It is the Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth, globally known as the CSPOC, and of course it is hosted by the Gauteng Legislature together with the National Parliament of South Africa.
And of course, if you've just joined us, this is a program that started already at 2 o'clock. And of course, like Thembi Nkosi said, there was an opening ceremony that started earlier. And let's talk to some of the speakers that spoke during the ceremony. Of course, the program director for the opening ceremony was the Deputy Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, And of course, after that, the procession of the delegated head of state and speakers were, they proceeded to get into the venue. It was a whole ceremony. And of course, after that, it was the singing of anthems. And of course, the introduction of the countries and speakers. And of course, the Honorable Speaker of the Gauteng province, Ms. Morakane Msupre, she made an introduction, made some introductory remarks with regards to the opening ceremony.
And of course, following her, we had some discussions. We had Ms. Refile Mutsweni Tsipane, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, delivering her opening statement, and also welcome the opportunity and thanking the Gauteng Provincial Legislature under the leadership, of course, of the Standing Committee of the Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth for a job well done in the successful planning, organizing, and convening of this prestigious event from the 16th to the 20th. Of course, as you can see here, the events that are taking place, there must have been a lot of planning and organizing that took place before today's actual event.
And that is what the Honorable Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature said, that there was a lot of planning and a lot of delegations that went into this with regards to how it would be structured, right? From the venue itself, there is a clear significance as to why the Emperor's Palace was chosen. And of course, today is also the 16th of June 2026, of which we're commemorating the 50th anniversary of the 16th of June 1976, the Soweto student uprising. And of course, Honorable Msupre made it a point that the delegates of the CSPOC also are part of the wreath laying at the Hector Peterson Memorial.
And of course, Minister Lamola, Ronald Lamola of the Department of Cooperation and International Relations, he delivered the key message on behalf of the President. You would have seen earlier in our broadcast when the President was addressing the activities that are taking place at the FNB Stadium, commemorating, of course, the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprising, as it is our Youth Day today. And some of the issues that he spoke to as stronger parliaments for a stronger Africa, where he indicated that he emphasized that effective, proactive, and accountable parliaments are essential for political stability, democratic governance, and sustainable development across the continent. He also urged legislatures to move beyond oversight and become active drivers of development and citizen empowerment.
And of course, he did not slay down when it came to the controversial issue of illegal immigrants that South Africa is currently facing at the moment. But of course, Minister Lamula laid the facts and of course said to the delegates that they are more than welcome to go and visit some of the cities, I'll call them landmines, within the province, just so that they can experience the spirit of South Africa.
And also so that they can engage with the citizens of their country, so that they can hear from themselves, because the minister cautioned against misinformation, especially to the current environment in South Africa that relates to migration. He also called for Africa that must shape up its own future. He called for African solutions to African challenges, stressing the importance of regional cooperation and collective action in addressing conflict, poverty, inequality, and other development. He also highlighted the need for African institutions to take ownership of the continent's development agenda.
And of course, for you at home, this conference only starts today, right? And of course, this means that the conference will be carrying on throughout the day. It only started today. It's Tuesday, the 16th of June, 2026, and it will carry on throughout the week. And of course, we'll be covering all of those processions for you here on Parliament TV.
And of course, we would have heard from the last speaker who was doing a vote of thanks that as the day comes to a close, the delegates from across the Commonwealth Africa region are currently gathering for the official conference photograph, capturing a moment of unity, cooperation, and shared purpose. Also representing diverse nations, cultures, and parliamentary traditions, speakers and presiding officers have spent the day exchanging ideas, sharing experiences, and exploring solutions to some of the continent's most pressing challenges. The official photograph, of course, it serves more than a ceremonial tradition, it is a lasting symbol of the collective commitment of African legislatures to strengthen democracy, uphold accountability, as well as advancing the sustainable development for the benefit of all Mother Africa citizens.
And of course, just a reminder of the objective of this, because some people are asking what is CSPOC and what are some of the objectives here. And it's important to know that it's not a law-binding region. It's not a law-binding organization, right? But rather it serves as a forum where speakers, deputy speakers, presiding officers and parliamentary leaders share experiences, strengthen parliamentary institutions and promote democratic governance across Commonwealth countries in Africa. And this is what we will be experiencing throughout this week.
And of course, based on the conference theme and program outline, delegates can expect discussions tomorrow to focus on some of the most pressing issues facing African legislatures and democratic institutions. We know that Minister Lamula spoke briefly on the issue that is affecting the migrants in the country, but we can expect more discussions on those topics tomorrow. Of course, a key focus will be on how speakers and presiding officers can reform parliamentary processes and also develop innovative mechanisms to ensure that legislatures play a more active role in Africa's development agenda. Delegates are expected to share best practices and successful models from their respective jurisdictions.
And of course, we're going to bring that to you live here. And of course, over the years, the conference has strengthened parliamentary cooperation across Africa. It has advanced parliamentary democracy and governance. And of course, furthermore, it has elevated continental development, talking to climate change, food security, the implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area, and of course, public trust in institutions. Like we mentioned earlier, of course, this is Parliament hosting in collaboration with the Gauteng legislature, and this is the 19th CSPOC that is happening right here in Gauteng. And of course, we cannot go on without having a conversation with the Secretary to Parliament, which is Mr. Xolile George, who will let us know what some of the issues or some of the plannings that have gone into the CSPOC, and of course the importance thereof is. Mr. George, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you very much, Tsepo, and good afternoon to Parliament TV viewers.
Of course, Mr. George, it's been a long day today, and I think it's been a long week throughout. In fact, it's only Tuesday, but it's been a long week. Let's talk to the importance of CSPOC to not just Parliament itself, but to the rest of the Commonwealth and the African region.
Well, Tsepo, this is the foremost organized formation of presiding officers of our parliaments in the continent. Obviously falling within the global umbrella of Commonwealth. And it's significant in the sense that it is not only for speakers, it is deliberate to say speakers and presiding officers. Because in any traditions and setup of any house, there will be speakers, but the overall infrastructure of oversight and governance will include people like in our own system. You'll have house chairpersons, yes. You'll have deputies, all of those. We call them the presidium. So when we have more than 22 countries present here for this week in South Africa, it is quite significant for us, not only because we stepped in to agree to host. We stepped in on two fronts. Firstly, South Africa as a country embracing its sisterhood to the rest of other parliaments in the SADC. So when Botswana could not, South Africa then steps in.
Yes.
Not only the dimension of that, also internal within ourselves, to agree that we need to pull together our capacities. Capacity of Gauteng with the capacity of us as a national parliament. That demonstrate that from our leadership prowess, we are able to come in and make sure that we both act in concert to service our country.
Yes.
To say South Africa will stand up and assist on that. It also demonstrates our credentials generally in our ability to handle things. So we're quite confident that with those two intersecting moments, where we stepped in to demonstrate regional solidarity.
Yes.
And we stepped in to say, as a continent, in any event, we are forever ready as a continent. It also allows us to seize the moment, because South Africa as a country is facing two important realities. The 30 years of our constitutional democracy that we're celebrating just at the end of May as South Africa. We hosted a day in Parliament to commemorate and celebrate, rather, the 10th of May
Yes.
as the day in which our founding president signed the new constitution. For me personally, it's important, it was my birthday.
Oh.
So every time there's 10th of May, I know that
You
it
know.
coincides with the signing of the constitution. So it just came in just to make me busy that day, formally, not for myself. When we had the 10th of May as the anniversary for 30 years, it was very important, because here is a parliament where this important founding document was signed. It is now reflecting back 30 years.
Yes.
So it's important that in these 30 years of our constitutional democracy, we host this event. Secondly, it also coincides, not just by accident of the day, with a youth month in South Africa,
Yes.
where we reflect on the 50th anniversary of the significant strides that lightened up the democratic torch of our march to democracy as a country. So those two intersecting are very important.
Yes.
But most profoundly is that in the month in which we host, sadly, it also presents an opportunity for us to push back some of the difficulties that we had to confront as a country. Challenges around migration,
Yes.
where we are now saying, despite all these challenges, that fellow citizens that we have in the continent who are resident in our country legally or illegally.
Yes.
These are human beings. The pledges that our constitution offers around solidarity, human dignity, are very foundational to our constitution that we're celebrating. So we're being called upon to demonstrate that as a country. At the same time, to make sure that whenever there are difficulties like this, we allow government
Yes.
to do what is just and what is right, to implement the laws of the country in a manner that respects human dignity, as the president has outlined.
Yes.
That we condemn any actions of violence or conduct that is illegal, and allow the state to do its work within the confines of the constitution and the law. So when we have all of those speakers from these countries joining us in Soweto to commemorate that, pledging their own, memory to show respect to many, it was a profound moment for us. That on the one hand we are confronted with the challenges, on the other, the most apex leaders of our parliaments are here to demonstrate and show that in solidarity with the rising of the youth in our country, they are part of and they support our issues. So that's the significance of the CSPOC that South Africa is hosting today.
And of course, STP, I cannot let you go by, but I have to ask you, for you, what does it mean, Youth Day? I mean, I don't know where you were in 1976. However, I just want to know personally for you, what does it signify?
It's quite an important day, 50 years, and it throws many opportunities for reflection.
Yes.
Of course, I was young at that stage. I could not have been involved in any activities at that moment. I think I was still in the category of 10, in that category of 10 years.
Yes.
So at that time, you would not have been capable of being mobilized to join the rest of young people who were at secondary and so on, because I was at primary school. The point, however, is that when you take a reflection of that period, 50 years down the line, what was the burning platform at that age for young people? The burning platform was that here is a system that is unjust, being imposed using language as an instrument of oppression. And young people stood up and challenged that. Because at that time there were no human rights that people were enjoying in our apartheid system. And they fought against that. It might have been a reaction to a moment, a policy instrument that was used to oppress.
Yes.
But what it does, it galvanized the agency and young people to fight a system that is unjust. At the same time, propel the march towards the democratic era that we are in, the championing of political rights that were denied,
Yes.
and propelling us to a stage of a sustained pushback against oppression in all its manifestations. So when we look back and say, what were the gains that the 1994 political breakthrough presented? It ushered a democratic state. It ushered a state that enabled that education is not just an ability to go to school. It's a human right. It's now entrenched in our constitution. Every child has a right to go to school. And government has tried all within its reasonable means to provide that educational right in terms of providing infrastructure, providing opportunity for children to study, where there's a need to support them. And we have seen so many children that go through that, that no less than 1.2 million children are supported to study now in tertiary institutions. More than 800,000 children are supported not only in primary and secondary education, not only with books and other things,
Yes.
but access to education. You know, access is the most important issues, but support to be able to go to school is a whole range of measures that enable that so many young people are now able to start and finish.
Yes.
And sadly, with all those successes, we don't record significant and critical mass for people to be absorbed by an economy that is not performing. So it's one thing for children to have education, to succeed in an environment that is at odds with the realities where they come from.
Yes.
So where the prospect of one child having gone through for the first time in a family to acquire tertiary institution, tertiary qualification rather, but that child has no opportunity to be absorbed in workplace opportunities.
Yes.
So it creates those contradictions that I am now ready, but the system is not absorbing. So democratic government is facing those realities. So
Yes.
our roles as parliament is to make sure that we oversee the laws that
Yes.
are passed by various sector departments, whose duty is to implement programs and policies that the president has outlined
Yes.
for government to execute. And our role as parliament is to oversee that those commitments and ideas set up in the constitution are progressively realized.
Yes.
Meaning that performing oversight on stated policies to make sure that strategic plans of departments are executed. And our various committees are doing that, knowing that in an environment that is constrained from economic growth, at least the resources of the state must be executed meaningfully and utilized to be directed in outcomes that will drive national development goals, and also empower young people to be able to be meaningful participants in the economic system, so that the same struggles that they stood for are now realized.
Yes.
And they are multiplied for many of them.
Mr. George, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Anytime.
And of course, that is the Secretary to Parliament. Of course, that is the National Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, of course, telling us about his experiences. And of course, the conference itself right here in Gauteng, as we're hosting the CSPOC, right? This is the 19th CSPOC that is taking place today. And of course, we thank Mr. George for making the time. Now, as we move on, of course, as we await the ceremonies to keep on going, or the processions to rather keep on going throughout the whole week, we await full programs where member states will exchange ideas and experiences with regards to CSPOC. Of course, this is an organization of presiding officers, of deputy speakers, and of course, this means, for example, with us in South Africa, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Ms. Toko Didiza, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Refile Mtweni-Tsipane. Of course, in this regard, we're also talking about the Gauteng legislature as well. Ms. Marakane Musupia, of course, her deputies, and of course, all the other legislatures within the sector and in South Africa. Now, keep on watching Parliament TV as we conclude here in Gauteng. Well, I'm well. How are you? I'm good.
Welcome back. You're still watching Parliament TV. Of course, we're coming to you live from the magnificent Emperor's Palace. And I am now joined by none other than the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. Ronald Lamola. Mhlekazi, thank you very much for taking time off to speak to us at Parliament TV.
Thank you very much.
To kickstart the conversation, in your address, you highlighted the growing importance of parliamentary diplomacy. So how can African parliaments complement the work of governments in advancing foreign policy objectives?
Thank you very much indeed. It is very important that the African parliaments hold us as the executive into account on regional integration. How far have we gone in terms of the protocols of the AU, on AFCTA, on peace and security, and so forth, so that we are able to have measurable outcomes and show in terms of the performance indicators that this is the extent in which we've gone. Recently, the SADC region has come out with the indicators that shows that in the SADC region, we're almost at 21% in terms of regional integration. On trade, the parliaments will be able to call us, the ministers of trade and so forth, and say, why is this so? Why are we not moving? There has been a vision, there's been summits, resolutions have been taken, and how far are we going? Not only on trade, but also on the issues of migration. There's an African protocol on migration, how it must be dealt with, pull and push factors, which country must play, which role country of first entry, and so forth. Also call them. How far are we going? What is the situation? Why are we not moving? And then also build on that to ensure that the executive does indeed account, but also execute on the outcomes of the summits.
You also spoke about an increasingly complex and fragmented global environment. So what are the biggest geopolitical challenges currently facing African countries?
Yeah, the recently ended conflict between the US, Iran, and Israel is a huge challenge for the African continent because it has impacted the price of energy or fuel in all its characteristics, whether it's diesel, petrol, oil, and so forth. Also, again, it has impacted the transportation of fertilizer. And as you are aware, in the African continent, in the next month or so, it will be the plowing season, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. So these are issues of huge geopolitical impact to the continent, but also the conflicts in Sudan is one of the biggest humanitarian crises, which I believe that parliamentarians also have a role to play to hold governments to account. What are we contributing to regional peace? And also South Sudan will have to go to their first democratic elections as a new nation. South Africa is empowered by the African Union to support that process. But we need to see that indeed democracy end up becoming a victory in South Sudan. They exit the revitalized peace agreement and we see processes. And Parliament also has a role to oversight that process, and not only our Parliament, but many parliaments in the continent which have been entrusted by the African Union to support South Sudan's efforts.
Just to follow up on that, Minister, so how can African countries then strengthen collective responses to emerging security threats?
It's by working together. The Africa Standby Force has now been operationalized in terms of the last resolution of the summit. But there are many other security threats that we need to work as a unit, as a cohesive, not only in terms of peace and security, but also environmental. Some of the issues that are leading to migration, to displacement of people, is environment, is droughts, and so forth. It always leads also to food insecurity. So all these are issues that we need to work together, including issues of cybersecurity, which are also becoming more complex, but also becoming one, because there is no country in the global space. In the cybersecurity world, it's one world, and someone can do something from anywhere. So these are issues that also need collaboration in the African continent.
And you've spoken to it briefly, Minister, on migration. You spoke about migration as a shared continental challenge. So how can African countries strike a balance between border management, economic needs, and humanitarian considerations?
Is by making sure that migration is done in accordance with the law, in accordance with the constitution, but also balance it in terms of our own country's economic needs. There are skills that we need, but there are also sectors that can be handled by South Africans or nationals of that country to be able to respond to these migration challenges. And I do think that there is a need for commonality in dealing with it across the continent.
And we have all the presiding officers and speakers of the African parliaments gathered here today. So what role can parliaments play in addressing the root causes that drive people to leave their countries?
It's to ensure that democracy works, the rule of law, and that the economy of every country is able to function, and that we then implement what is in the protocols of the AU SADC on Africa Free Trade Area, because this is where the economies of our continent of our countries can be able to grow through producing, through manufacturing, through industrialization, and also through ensuring that the youth of the continent find work, they can be of use, they can be harnessed their skills. So those are the platforms that we can be able to use, and the speakers have a role to ensure that Parliament is geared towards accountability on these important measures that can contribute to the growth of the African economy.
Minister, before I let you go, at a time when citizens are questioning institutions and leadership, why do conferences such as CSPOC still matter to the ordinary African citizen?
They may look not impactful or of no use, but the laws that citizens see are a product of cross-border engagements and exchange of views and ideas. So this conference becomes very key because it gives the parliaments exchange of platforms, which laws works in Ghana and which ones they don't work in South Africa, and they can exchange, they can also look at best practices, the tools of analysis, the tools of implementation, the tools of oversight. It supports the work of parliamentarians as they do their job on a day-to-day basis. And in that regard, it will be impactful on the service delivery from the executive, from where the local municipalities, and it will trickle down to the ordinary citizen. Because all these laws that they are talking about are not implemented in heaven. They must be implemented in the world. They must be implemented to every human being on the planet, in the African continent.
Minister, I know I said it was the last one, but before I let you go, I can't let this opportunity slip. The country celebrates 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprising today. What is your message to the young people of South Africa?
It's to grab the opportunity to skill themselves in the various sectors of our economy, look into the skills that will enable them to either find a job or to be self-employed.
Minister, thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedule to talk to us here on Parliament TV.
Thank you very much.
Well, viewers, that was the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Minister Ronald Lamola, just speaking to Parliament TV about some of the issues that he highlighted during his presentation to the CSPOC conference that took place today. You are still watching Parliament TV. Of course, we are coming to you live from Emperor's Palace. It is a CSPOC 19th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers. All right. All right, I'm now joined by Advocate Mpho Maluka. Advocate, thank you very much for talking to us here on Parliament TV. Can we get your reflections for today?
Thanks very much. Well, the reflections for today was an opening by the Minister, Minister Lamola, to welcome the delegates that came to the conference, but also to also a welcome message as well from the chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Tsipane, and lastly the message of support from the acting premier, MMC Mazibuko.
And Gauteng is hosting parliamentary leaders from across the Commonwealth Africa region. What does this mean for this province?
Well, it means firstly that we are putting Gauteng again on the map in terms of making sure that we expose them to our hospitality as Gauteng, and also it's an economic spin-off for Gauteng as a province. I mean, sorry about it. As Gauteng, we for example, on Thursday, we will be having excursions wherein we'll be hosting delegates to different townships, Soweto, Mamelodi, Westland, Ekurhuleni. That's where they will have their lunch there, to have them to feel the township life.
And what lessons is the Gauteng Provincial Legislature hoping to share with other legislatures attending the conference?
Absolutely. In terms of lessons, I believe that CSPOC, I mean, we learn from one another as legislatures. We learn from our brothers and sisters in Africa. We also learn from other legislatures in South Africa. I mean, there's one legislature or a parliament wherein they've automated their public participation process. That tells you that we are now using technology to get to access the people, and that on its own also it will assist, because we are now living in an era where social media is the thing. So we'll use social media to ensure that we also access our people.
Secretary, you spoke on public participation. Now, the Gauteng Provincial Legislature has often emphasized on public participation. So, how are you ensuring that citizens remain at the center of parliamentary processes?
For us, actually, it's one of the obligations of, in terms of the Financial Management of Parliament Act, that we have an obligation to ensure that the citizens are at the center of public participation. When we develop legislation, when we develop the bills, there should be consultation process. There are in fact, there are a number of court decisions that makes that as an obligation. And also to ensure that you have, I mean, as a democracy, a government of the people by the people, and you can't have that without consulting people.
Now, Secretary, you just spoke about the young, and this event today coincides with the celebrations on the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprisings. However, young people often feel disconnected from politics, and that message came out strongly yesterday in the youth parliament that was hosted in the Johannesburg City Hall. So what can legislatures do to encourage greater youth participation in our democratic processes?
I think we need to, as I say, that we need to involve young people in the decision-making process. I mean, pre-1994, you will not see the young people having that type of discussions wherein they speak with parliamentarians. I mean, the only language we knew in pre-1994 was the tear gas, was stones. And we believe now this is the moment where young people must grab opportunities. This is the moment where young people must actually, there's a lot of opportunities, and young people must use those opportunities to empower themselves. And I believe that legislatures, we need to bring in legislative intervention to ensure that our state institutions, they hire more young people, the private sector hire more young people. If possible, if we can even come up with quotas as well, to say that when you hire this specific quota of young people, then you have some kind of a tax rebate, you know. That in itself can go a long way to assist young people, to empower them, and allow them space to operate, the space to make mistakes as well.
Now, yesterday, some of the issues that the young people raised was issues of unemployment, as issues of no access to education, as issues that spoke to challenges within the NSFAS. So, how do you think parliaments can assist young people to ensure access to education and also to curb the high rate of unemployment amongst young people?
Yeah, I think you are raising two things there. It's around how do we ensure that young people get access to opportunities like NEFSAS and all that. I believe that we need to review the system. NEFSAS as an institution, they need to review its own systems and look into how best they can support young people at universities. I mean, there are issues of the missing middle as well, and we believe that there's a need to also look into what you call the means test for young people, parents to qualify their kids to be taken, assisted by NEFSAS.
Now, on issues of capacity building, what skills do parliamentary officials in particular need to navigate the increasingly complex governance environment?
Sure. I think one of the challenges of today in the legislative sector is the issue of capacity building, training. As the Gauteng legislature, we visited our colleagues in Nigeria, where we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the institute of the training institute in Nigeria, and we are in the process of coming up with an institute as Gauteng, and our focus is to train our MPs, ensure that we empower MPs, but not only MPs, members of legislatures. We believe that that institute can also assist even councillors, because they also will require some kind of training. And the institute that I'm talking about will be focused more on the parliamentarians, councillors, to empower them.
Looking ahead, what outcomes would you like to see emerge from this conference from an administrative and institutional perspective?
No, I believe we really need an improved public service. The legislature now, gone are the days of, we used to be called the clerks of the clerks in the table. So I believe that these days we need a professional sector wherein we share ideas and also look into what type of technological interventions we can come up with. I mean, there's AI where we can do research and see how best we can automate our systems.
Now, Secretary, before I let you go, we know that elected representatives are public face of parliaments,
Sure.
but parliamentary officials work behind the scenes to keep the democracy functioning. So what message would you like to share about the importance of this often unseen work that happens behind the scenes, in particular by parliamentary officials, including the secretary?
I can tell you, because I work with these people on a daily basis, and look, your members of parliament, they work very hard. In Gauteng, for example, there's a lot of work that has been done by committees. They make sure that the executive account, they play oversight over the executive. So there's a lot of work that has been done, but obviously it will require some kind of improvement. But I believe that these are the people that work behind the scenes. These are the people that actually are doing a lot of work in terms of ensuring that there's accountability on the side of the executive.
Advocate, thank you very much for taking time off to talk to us here on Parliament TV.
Thank you so much.
Well, viewers, that was Advocate Mpho Maloka, the Secretary to Parliament in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Please stay tuned. Stay, Secretary. Stay.
For South Africa. 19th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth, also known globally as CSPOC. And I'm privileged to be joined by a very special guest. With me here is the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Honorable Refilwe Mthweni-Zipane. Mama Refilwe, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Of course, earlier on, you gave a keynote address at the opening of the 19th CSPOC conference. And of course, earlier than that, there was the media briefing, and at the helm of that, you were talking about the state of readiness for South Africa, right? For our viewers who are just joining us, can you explain in your own words, why is this conference so important?
Well, this conference is very important, as you know, that as parliaments across the SADC, we have come together through this forum called CSPOC, which is a conference for speakers and the presiding officers of our respective parliaments. Now, the main purpose of this is to exchange knowledge and learn best practices amongst ourselves. And therefore, it is very critical that we come together from time to time as we are meeting biannually to look at the issues that are new issues that are emerging. What do they say to us, and how then do we begin to address them? Now, obviously, the systems that are there in place, are they still relevant? Are they still responding to the issues at hand? If not, how do we then begin to harness and close the gaps that we shall have identified? And subsequent to that, resolutions are taken, which will then inform the implementation from our respective parliaments and legislatures. And as we meet again, we then take stock, starting from the resolutions that we have taken from previous conference, and say, what is it that we have done to address the issues? Because in the end, we need to strengthen our oversight roles. We need to strengthen our accountability such that we respond appropriately, timeously to the challenges that the communities, which they are the people who have sent us and trusted us with this responsibility, to come and represent them, to come and champion their plight and aspiration so as to ensure delivery of services.
And of course, Honorable Chairperson, this conference, like you said, it brings together presiding officers, speakers of parliaments throughout the continent. Now, what does it mean for South Africa and the NCOP specifically to be co-hosting this event alongside the Gauteng legislature this year?
As South Africa, we are quite honored and very humbled to host this. And as you probably know, that we were supposed to host by 2038, but due to the challenges that were experienced in Botswana as a result of them coming out immediately from elections, and this was their turn to host the conference, it would not have allowed them an opportunity to prepare appropriately so that they are ready to receive us. Now, as South Africa, Botswana is one of us, and therefore we saw a need to say that perhaps we need to step in to avoid unbecoming or undesirable situation where the conference is put on hold because of the host is not able. Now, as the Parliament of South Africa, we had to step in, and of course, given the significant month that we are in, 16th June, where we commemorate the 16th June, it was very crucial that we come down to the shores of Gauteng.
Yes.
And we host this event in collaboration with the provincial legislature of Gauteng. And we remain happy
Yes.
that they have then since came to the fore, so that we work together in collaboration in making sure that this becomes very a successful conference.
Yes.
And given the significance of the month in which we are in as South Africa.
And of course, you mentioning Youth Month, let's just talk about what it means to you. What is the importance of Youth Month, celebrating the youth, empowering them and ensuring that there's proper resources and channels ensuring that they are properly developed?
Well, the youth of 1976 has left indelible memories for all of us in South Africa. The struggle that they have waged has seen us transitioning from the apartheid system to a new democratic dispensation. It was through their blood and sweat
Yes.
that today you and I are seated here enjoying the fruits of the struggle that they have waged then, which started with a noble cause to say that let us be afforded an opportunity to learn in a language that we are comfortable with. But it ended up with a massacre where we saw young people being brutally attacked by the repressive apartheid system. That has since that struggle has since been taken forward by the youth of today, in that they've built on what has been started by their counterpart and say that as youth of South Africa, what are the emerging challenges that we are facing, that we really need to take the struggle forward. As you'd hear that, yes, they do acknowledge that South Africa, we are free, but they are further saying, we will never be free until there is economic emancipation for the young people. That speaks to the current situation of the high unemployment rate that we are seeing. That speaks to the question of the inequality that we are grappling with. That speaks to the high levels of poverty that we are experiencing as South Africa. Now, in the main, we need to also acknowledge that South Africa, more and more, it's becoming a younger country.
Yeah.
Now, the more high levels of unemployment are prevalent towards our young children, we must appreciate the consequences thereof. We are prone to have high levels of crime within a country, and the level of anger and anxiety amongst ourselves. The psychosocial aspects will be quite rife and very prevalent. So we're dealing with a number of issues. So that balance is very critical.
Yes.
Now, as this government, we really need to be responsive and come up with policies and system and initiatives that seeks to address the challenges that our children are facing by ensuring that our economy grows quite exponentially to a point where it addresses the issues of high unemployment rate and poverty, the inequalities that they are experiencing. On the same vein, we must acknowledge and accept that our government has done quite tremendous work to address quite a number of challenges that were there, starting from no-fee education system, from ECD right up to university. But the question still remains, are the skills that our youth are taking responding to the economic challenges that the country is visiting? Now, that's a fundamental question that we still need to address, so that as they complete school, they are gainfully employed, because they shall be possessing the necessary skills that are needed in a market for them to be gainfully employed. And therefore, those are some of the policy decisions that needs to be taken, and therefore, as parliamentarians, we need to be alive to the realities.
Yes.
And also, as we do our work, we need to probe our counterparts in the executive, what is it that they are doing really to address these challenges such that they bring stability within our country, within our communities.
And of course, Madam Chair, that speaks to one of the elements of the mandate of Parliament that you strongly advocate for, which is strengthening parliamentary oversight, right, and accountability. Now, when we bring it back to CSPOC, of course, viewers are probably looking at this and thinking, how is this going to directly affect me, right? How does the conference advance this vision of strengthening oversight and accountability and ensure that Parliament's role within these democratic nations takes a more active and proactive role?
You see, as parliamentarians, before we speak, we need to have a good sense of what is contained on the ground. And it is through public participation programs that we undertake and oversight programs that we undertake and interface with our communities. We have to listen to their plight, and we have to get the ideas and their views. Having collated that, we then come back and say, what does this mean to us? And what does it call for? And as we engage and interface as parliamentarians across the continent and even amongst ourselves as South Africa, we then put those perspectives into useful use, which will then by and large influence the policy directions that we need to take as a country so that we are responding to the emerging challenges that our country is faced with. On our own, I can come as a refiller, I'll speak my mind, but at the end of the day, does that really addresses the issue that the people want? And I'll cite an example. You go to a particular area, people are not comfortable, they're not happy, forever striking, and you go there, you realize one challenge. Oh, okay, they don't have water here. Probably this is a challenge that they're faced with. And you come with all your infrastructure, you put up the state of the art, the best of the best infrastructure so that they can have water. But those communities, they still continue to strike. You did not ask them exactly what is their challenge. Now, only to find that that challenge would not have cost government an arm and a leg. They are comfortable with their current situation, but their challenge is just a mere thing that would not have spent cost government even a cent. So that misalignment, it creates problems and it perpetuates the unrest that we see. But if you have that insight of going down, listen to them, hear their plight, and you would not miss the critical aspects of their challenges, and you will respond adequately. And even if somebody else comes and says, but you know, this government is not doing anything for you. Look at you, don't have water. And say, no, we're happy. This government has helped at a great deal because you have addressed their immediate contentious issue at hand. And therefore, all those issues, if they are correctly captured, they will then inform our processes, our policy directive as government, so that we respond appropriately. So as Parliament, we have a role to play, to go out there, listen to our people, as we even interface with our counterparts. We'll still pose those questions. We've got this challenge. This is what our people are saying. How have you fared in your country? Have you ever experienced this? And how did you address this? And what was the ultimate outcome having addressed the challenge? So all those interactions, they will then assist us in shaping the direction in which we need to take as a country.
And of course, Madam Chair, during your opening remarks at the opening ceremony, kept on emphasizing that we cannot wait to host you at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference that is happening in Cape Town later on this year. Now, of course, we're preparing for that, and we just want to know, how does hosting the 19th CSPOC position South Africa as a leader in the continental and global parliamentary diplomacy?
Well, we see this as one of the build-up programs. Obviously, the Commonwealth Parliament, again, it's another body that is composed yet again with by the speakers within the continent Africa region, but throughout the globe. And therefore, it would be critical that not only as South Africa, this is not a hosting for South Africa, but we are hosting on behalf of Africa as a whole. And therefore, for that collaboration, it's very critical for us. So it starts with us coming together through programs and conferences such as CSPOC. We then discuss and deliberate, and as we go there, we've got one common position through consensus declarations that we shall have taken here. So when we go there, we don't speak as individual, we speak as Africa, having had a good sense of appreciation and deliberation of what we are facing.
Mama Refilwe, thank you so much for always making the time.
Thank you so much.
And of course, that is the chairperson of the NCOP, Ms. Refilwe Mthweni-Tsipane. Of course, she was giving us the reasons and the importance of CSPOC, but not only just for the CSPOC itself, but for the nations that are here in terms of ensuring that they share ideas and that at the end of the day, you sitting at home will have tangible solutions to the challenges that you face. Of course, this is the end of the program today. From myself, Tepo Mori, and my co-host, Thembi Nkosi. That's it. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. I was the last.